We talked to the president of the Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, Tony Kgoroge, and he joins us now live from SABC studios in Durban. Tony, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through. South Africa is saddened, of course, by the death of HHP, and I know that you knew him on a personal level even before he became the HHP that we loved and adored so much.
Yes, well, it is indeed a great loss for South Africa, and mostly to the creative and cultural industries, and mostly to the music industry, to the hip-hop sector, to Bokoni Bophirima, to Motswako, to that great sound that he brought to us. It's really a great loss.
Talk to us about how you knew him. As I said, Tony, that you had that special relationship even before he became famous.
Well, I first met JABBA when we started off, in my days on SABC3 and Isidingo, trying to come up in the industry, also trying to get into the TV industry. I remember them, they were going into, when the YFM was still new and fresh established, we used to meet there in downtown. They will share their dreams, their raps. They will go and freestyle at One Drop, and that's how I met JABBA. Very respectful. Always called me Grootman, even those days when I was a little bit younger. He still called me Grootman up until this time. And then we also worked with him, where my wife came up with the idea of the Black Love for the True Love magazine that just won an award. Him and his wife, they were the first people to jump on there and do the magazine shoot for True Love.
And as you said, he's described by the many as the king of hip-hop, but most importantly, some are saying that he's the actual pioneer of Motswako. Let's just talk a little bit about his contribution, of course, to the music industry here in South Africa, but most importantly, promoting Venek. He's one of those first few hip-hop artists and made Motswako fashionable.
Yes, that's true. And more than anything else, they made Setswana as a language fashionable. They put, Setswana flow and the Setswana lyrics into the sound that was strange to traditional and folk sounds. He also went into the reggae. He did a song with a Jamaican artist called Luton Fire. So it just shows you how versatile and how great of a talent JABBA was to us as South Africans.
Yeah, and of course there's so much speculation around his death, but we will not dwell into that as we're still waiting to hear what's the cause of his death is. But this, of course, brought again the issue of depression into the spotlight. And your federation, really, how does it go about assisting artists with the stressful circumstances and the conditions that they find themselves in, going as far as contractual agreements that they get into, issues around intellectual property as well?
Yeah, well, if truly speaking, from the federation's point of view, it's something that we never really looked into, the issues of people going through stress or depression and stuff like that. Because, us as artists sometimes, we want to put our best out there. And if you look into your Instagrams and where artists are mostly, you find that they put their best life out there and they never put their worst life out there. So we never get to be exposed to the other side of life. But what we know is that one of the things that brings about stress within the industry, it's, the contracts that artists get themselves in, and more especially the musicians. You find that the musicians get into a contract where they have to sign a 3-year contract. And then at the time when they make that album, the album does not do well. And if it's not doing well, that means you're stuck within that contract and that record label, and maybe it's not treating you well or you're not getting along with them. But for that 3 years, that means that your career is stagnant. You're not moving, you're not doing anything. So to an artist, that brings bitterness, it brings depression, it means that it looks like your career is ending and you're not going anywhere. So those are the things that are bringing the stressfulness within the artist's life. And also the issues of them not owning their own property. It's a big issue. because if you're not owning property, that means you're not making any money. You know, the issues of collecting societies and not being able to come back to the artists and making sure that the artists get what is rightfully theirs. It becomes one of the biggest issues that we have. And later on, when they find out that I'm owed this money, I'm owed that money, it becomes a huge thing. They want to fight, they become bitter, and it takes out the worst in them. And that can lead also to the issue of artists becoming stressful and artists becoming depressed.
Yeah, so how do we move away from that particular point? How do we ensure that we avoid losing more talent as a result of depression and stress? Because JABBA had on previous occasions, you know, spoken openly about his depression, and we know that he even tried taking his own life on several occasions. So what needs to be done for the artist, Tony, going forward?
I think we need to have programs that will deal with those kind of issues, and more especially dealing with the attitude of artists coming into fame, what is expected of them, and in terms of contracts that they enter into, what does that mean? And those programs must also be coupled with teaching about, in as much as we teach about HIV and all these kind of things and cancer, we must also get deeper into making sure that we have relationship with the health sector to help us deal with issues of depression and stress, because those are the things that we overlook sometimes because we are busy trying to put our best out to the world. All
right. So finally, how do we remember him going forward? And really what comes to my mind is the question that what would summer be without JABBA? That's one of the lyrics, of course, in one of his songs. So how do we take his legacy, you know, forward?
Well, it makes me a little bit emotional, but we will forever remember JABBA as the wordsmith. The greatest wordsmith that we ever had in terms of, I mean, he would switch from English to Setswana. We will remember him with Motswako, which is one of the classics that will never go away. We'll remember him with the person that he was, the fresh person that he was. He had differences with other people and so on and so forth, like anyone else. But his warmth is something that you remember first more than anything else.
Yeah, and I suppose we'd also remember him with Boso Kimang. Thank you so much, Tony, for coming through.